Hello, everybody. Welcome back. Today's April 2nd, and we're doing government and social stories to start the week. I almost defaulted to security there, but security was moved.
You know what? I think you might be right.
Is it security?
I think
Usually we do security, but you said social. I don't know. This is social. Yeah.
I must have just had like an aneurysm this morning and switched it around, which was a bad move because once again we got a little in the middle this week, but whatever. Anyway, terrible news. This is something you should be furious about. I don't know what we do about it. I don't know if there's a way to stop it, but we now have a timer that's running, and we know when the tyranny will really start to roll.
SWIFT planning to launch the new central bank digital currency platform in 12 to 24 months. I love how they were saying that, well, we're just going to make the checking system work like cryptocurrency. And then you keep peeling away the linoleum, and then they're basically just saying, no, it's just central bank digital currency.
Basically federation for whatever each central bank wants to come up with, and pure inoperability, which is a global currency, essentially. I mean, they'll still have, fluctuations in foreign exchange, but you'll be able to move them.
They say 1 to 2 years, but I mean, they kept saying that about the real IDs too, and those still haven't been fully implemented. Maybe it'll take longer than we think.
But China already has it, and they mentioned a couple of European countries are real close to kicking it off. So
now, does this mean that banks will, because they're in a serious advantageous position, that they would stop arbitrage of different currency? Arbitrage, is that right? Arbitrage.
I mean that's just the market, right?
That's just the market, but now they have a way of immediately settling all those things. That's weird. It's weird how that's going to really, really benefit them and no one else.
You know what I bet will happen is people will find out about that in 3 to 4 years after they've made billions from it. And then there'll be a huge backlash and all the governments of the world will be like, you're right, we do need one world currency. Of course we do.
That seems dark, chat. Really dark.
And what is the risk if we have a trackable, permanent ledger of everything that you do with your money? Well, perhaps a little analog is what you do with your entertainment.
If you watched certain YouTube videos, investigators demand your data from Google. This is a real thing. They actually got a warrant and said, hey, Google, if you got analytics, we want to know what Google accounts watched this video between this time and this time. It's actually a couple of videos, I think.
And if you didn't have a Google account, they still want the IP address. And they were given all of that without really any argument.
The thing that this article fails to mention is, remember how a couple of weeks ago we did a story on Google no longer keeping your address? Like enough people that watch this program, or that think along the lines of people to watch this program, I guess I should say, were like, hey, wait a minute, we shouldn't store people's individual location to the nth degree from now until the end of time because of abuse. And so Google stopped tracking that. It's now only on your phone, so
it's a setting.
Well,
it can still be that.
It can still.
By default, I think it is.
So
of course it is, 'cause they want that.
How is this? If we've descended to the, geofencing, we need to know everybody who is in the area of the 7-Eleven from 9 to 9:30 p.m. on Tuesday. Isn't this just the same kind of thing?
Now, I might be thinking like these videos are some sort of horrible like beheading videos or child exploitation instructions or something like that. But no, the videos themselves were not at fault here. The thing is, undercover agents shared these videos with the criminal they were trying to track down. And that was how they wanted, that was their in for the tracking. So the videos themselves were arbitrary.
I was going to say, do you think one of ours was in there? That would have been incredible.
It would have been great press. Yeah.
Great and terrible press.
Get put on a list by watching this one video.
And when you're not in a digital tracking kind of situation, well, the actual real-world surveillance is also becoming very amazing. And, of course, the government is at the forefront.
U.S. Air Force using AI Chatbot to help with surveillance. Basically, the AI Chatbot's like, hey, do you see anything weird happening in the surveillance photos? And it says, yes, Chief, you should look here. I found this weird place out in the desert in China that looks an awful lot like the Taiwanese presidential palace layout. That's weird, isn't it? It's like, oh, thanks, Chatbot. That's a real thing.
If you recall, the Air Force was one of the first entities that we found out about that did the social media tracking as well. They seem to be like really at the forefront of new technology for tracking people. I don't know why that falls under the Air Force bubble. And speaking of bubbles, how about those green bubbles? They are a huge societal problem, apparently.
Green bubble vindication. The DOJ antitrust lawsuit says Apple is causing Android users social stigma.
I'm of two minds of this because part of me is like, yeah, it's funny to watch Apple get punished, but also, are we really wasting resources on arguing over bubble color?
It's funny because this person who wrote the article, oh, there's a paywall. The person who wrote the article was talking about how they had been left out of group chats because having a green bubble in the group chat removed some features that other people wanted. It's incredible. I have the opposite bias.
You see someone with the blue bubble and you're like,
No, I mean, it doesn't work that way with our phones. But when I see the iPhone, I'm like, wait a minute. What are we working with here? And remember the big UnitedHealth hack we talked about recently? That is a big deal, and a lot of people are upset, and they should be because it was severe, and it probably could have been avoided. So now what are we going to do? Well, it's the U.S. government, right? So we're going to borrow some money and throw it at it.
U.S. offers a $10 million bounty for info on the Blackcat hackers who hit UnitedHealth. This is the one that shut down being able to get your prescription drugs. But if you know who's behind that, $10 million.
You want to guarantee that the full weight of law enforcement will come down on you? Do something that angers the pharmaceutical companies.
Also, $10 million doesn't go as far as it used to. There should have been at least 50.
well, they're working on a budget.
And if you recall, Joe Biden, after much deliberation, using his infinite wisdom, he decided that the leader of artificial intelligence in this country should be Kamala Harris. And now he wants similar decisions to be made in every company in the country.
Biden orders every U.S. agency to appoint a chief AI officer.
He says that they should have significant expertise. Is
They want 5 years experience, but it's not really been out that long.
But did his choice have expertise?
10 years of experience with AI chatbots.
Fun side things like Kamala Harris misunderstands technology so completely. She's largely responsible for the Backpage debacle.
There's a lot of skeletons in her prosecutory closet.
Prosecutorial.
I think
Yeah.
that's right. Yeah.
Prosecutorial closet. Yeah, I would agree with
Someone
that.
will correct us.
And it's just like it's
engagement.
like what motivates, like, I can't, even if it's like I want to make the world a better place, does not explain her behavior.
Social and political climbing does. And headlines are probably what explains this behavior, because we've already really just smashed these people into the ground with sanctions, but you can never have too many, right?
U.S. sanction spree continues with 15 more Russian entities. Well, that's not really the headline for this. Like the better headline for this should be that some think tanks and economic folks, credentialed university people have done the math, and it seems like Europe has been hurt more by the Russian sanctions than Russia. There's all these shell companies. I mean, hell, like Bob's Bait Shop is running a cross-border operation where they can just drive from Russia to the EU, buy a bunch of stuff, go back to Russia, and make a cool 10% off the top.
I think there's a lot of Bob's bait shops in Eastern Europe.
I'm sorry, Vlad's Bait
Yeah,
Shop.
that's not going to be Bob, but yeah, there's going to be a lot of bait shops. And it's definitely going to be in a landlocked area. And that's not the only sanctions that we've decided to hand out this week.
The U.S. and UK announced sanctions in China over hacks on election watchdog and lawmakers. China had some sanctions of their own. Foreshadowing.
A trade war is heating up. And this may sound like a good headline, but as is so often the case, the indicator of how powerful the cable lobby is the number of digits here. Not nearly enough.
Cable ISP fined $10,000 for lying to the FCC about where it offers broadband. Was that $10,000 per location, which was what? It was like 100,000 locations, right? Or no, it was 1,000 locations, or 1,500 locations. But they were applying for federal money, and they said, "Hey, we service all these places. Will you give us some money?" And I'm pretty sure they got more money than $10,000.
I like the sub-headline here where it's like, rival ISP says the fine isn't big enough.
It's
They're not wrong, but also they might have other reasons for saying that.
I can't find the quote, but there literally was a smoking gun where somebody emailed them and was like, "Hey, you said you have service on your site, but you don't. I moved into this house and you don't have service." I mean, how many times you run into that looking for houses?
Constantly.
And they just admitted in the email. They were like, "Oh yeah, we do that so they won't give money to the other guys."
Insane.
It's insane until you realize that it only cost them $10,000.
Yeah.
So
What a great way to make money.
actually quite a prudent business move if you think of it in those terms. And Oregon has brought out their own right to repair. Once again, we have slightly different right to repair no matter where you are, but this one does add a nice feature.
Oregon governor signs the nation's first right to repair bill that bans parts pairing. So this is when the two parts get together and it says, "Hey, I'm paired with this, and you're going to need a special utility in order for this part to work." Apple says this is dangerous because it allows random third-party parts that may not be up to standard. But even if you take parts from a brand new iPhone and try to mix it with parts into another brand new iPhone, it doesn't work. So Apple is, once again, half-truths and lies.
Also, if it's your own device, like, shouldn't you be allowed to mess it up?
I mean, I'd be fine if it
You
pops
know?
up a warning and is like, "Hey,
Yeah.
this," and the law says that's okay. So like if you do parts pairing, that's actually fine as long as you give the user the option.
So big problems with this. It doesn't set a time limit because all the other right to repairs, well, most of the other ones say you have to support this device for 5 years or something like that. This doesn't say that. So they could release an iPhone and then a year later be like, "Oh, we're going to sunset that iPhone." And then they would no longer have to do this. Also, a carve out. This actually will not affect video game consoles, medical devices, HVAC systems, motor vehicles, and electric toothbrushes.
What a weird carve out. Who knew the lobby for electric toothbrushes was so big?
And the piecemeal operation of our right to repair is mirrored in our piecemeal laws about social media now.
Florida braces for lawsuits over law banning kids from social media.
Is it free speech?
I fundamentally don't understand those kinds of laws. Like, suppose you're a family of chainsaw jugglers. Should chainsaw companies have to put child safety locks on the chainsaws to tell the age of the user?
I mean, that's a good argument. Now, but what if
It's an odd argument. Yeah.
what if the chainsaw company was rubbing a special compound before they sold you the chainsaw that made you addicted to it?
So
What if it gave you a sucker every time you started it?
Well, that's really no different than Kentucky Fried Chicken. I mean, I can see.
That's true. Yeah.
It's you have to be over 18 to buy the Colonel's special recipe. I could get behind that.
I mean, it's the parents' job, right? I know it's hard, but listen, you did it. You did it to yourself. You got nobody but yourself to blame. Well, you and one other person.
It's like you're not supposed to have an open electrical service panel in your house because your child could come along and decide the best place for their forehead is right between the hot wires in the electrical panel.
That's the argument they use to ram through the gun laws, isn't it? Is Facebook any better than an unlocked Glock? And Tennessee is taking another step forward in terms of the fight against AI. I don't know if it's against AI, but protecting their copyright holders.
Tennessee becomes the first state to protect musicians and other artists against AI. You're not allowed to use an artist's likeness or voice without permission.
That seems fair.
They bring up the Drake. Remember the Drake single that was released? It wasn't really Drake. So that would be criminalized, I guess. And I've missorted these, but Florida's not alone, and I suspect we'll see more and more of these popping up. In fact,
We're getting one here.
little old Kentucky's coming up later.
Georgia joins states seeking parental permission before children join social media. If you make it law that children have to be over 18, I mean, it's already in the terms of service, but it seems like there's better technological ways to solve this. Like, you can put a thing on your router that only the whitelisted websites work in your network. Like, this is a you problem. This is not a them problem.
Yeah, but I mean, your kid's going to have mobile data.
I was imagining like a questionnaire pop up that was like, "What's a drive-in theater?" Like,
No, this is 16 years old. I think Florida was 14, right?
Yeah, but we even for like, okay, the child has their own cell phone. We have the technology to the same stuff that corporations use. Like you have to use a VPN back to your home connection.
I mean,
Part of the device
it's
policy.
a lot to ask for some people,
Is
especially
it?
kids. The Florida one, I think we forgot to mention, requires you delete accounts. So current 14-year-olds in Florida, Facebook would have to delete their accounts according to the Florida law.
I mean, that could be just a handy feature in general.
You should be able to delete your account and not just have it float out there for
And I
6 months.
It would be neat if that worked. Yeah.
I think the Georgia one also covers the adult services, right? I think these are usually put together. But here in the Bluegrass, we're going to do one at a time. We're going to start with the most controversial one.
A last-minute amendment. The Kentucky Senate revives their own age verification law that's much the same thing.
Amazed that you got an article from the Herald Leader to work, because half the time the paywall is aggressive.
It's sad and misunderstood.
Yes.
But we're only just now getting to the point where we believe in electricity, so I guess it's okay.
Now, that is just through the House at this point.
But it was
So,
36-0, which is just, come on, fellas. It's like, why don't we have books? It's like, it's against the law for you to own Catcher in the Rye because of the adult themes.
So I'm sure that we'll join the list of states that just get geo-blocked and all that stuff, even though it's totally useless. And, the Washington Post. I hate it. I hate their paywall. But here we have the final, well, I don't know, there might be some appeals, but we have a somewhat final chapter in this saga.
Sam Bankman-Fried, 25 years in prison. SBF, FTX. What was it Matt Damon said in the FTX commercial? Fortune favors the bold.
Oh yeah. Except when it doesn't.
Except when it doesn't.
When the universe stops taking care of an idiot.
He traded a couple of really good years for 25 really bad years.
Yeah.
So he had a good time. I mean, I
Did
assume
he?
he did. He was having.
I don't know if I would have that good. I don't know if I'd trade 25 for.
I was disturbed though. Like it seemed like they were unnecessarily cruel to him because they're not giving him his Adderall and he's really having some problems. And so like whatever his medications are, they're just like no. And so he's like got the shakes real bad or something.
Yeah, you know who else they do that to? Every other meth user in prison. He can buy it illegally from the guards like everybody else does.
Trade cigarettes for it.
They don't let you have cigarettes anymore.
Oh, what do you? I don't know what prison's
It's
like.
ramen noodles now.
Oh, is that
That's
the currency?
prison currency, yeah.
Wow, hikers and prisoners, like
Oh, you should make that meme.
yeah,
The predator.
yeah, the two arms.
And over in the UK, maybe a glimmer of good news here, possibly.
The UK has decided to deny the current bid to extradite Julian Assange to the U.S. just because the U.S. hasn't promised not to put him up for execution. That's the only reason. Literally the only reason.
Well, they have to not kill him, and they have to let him have the normal level of free speech that other prisoners have. And the U.S. is like, we can't promise that. I'm sorry. There's no way we could assure that. And the Digital Markets Act is fresh, and it's taken them a very short amount of time to whip up a couple of complaints against literally everybody.
Commission opens non-compliance investigations against Alphabet, Apple, and Meta under the Digital Markets Act. They're saying, hey, this passed. You didn't do anything to try to bring yourself into compliance with this. It's fine in time.
Well, Apple did, but it was insulting what they did. That's like paying your fine in pennies, what Apple did. And as we see week after week, data breach, data breach, data breach, data breach. More and more people are waking up and being like, wait a minute, should you have my data? Because I don't know that you can trust it. And sometimes those people are working in these places and they're raising alarms.
Whistleblower raises alarm over UK Nursing and Midwifery Council's database. Turns out that mistakes were made. We're going to improve, don't worry. But why?
This sounds like a year one computer science student trying to set up a database. They get everything wrong and they allow the data to be off in a variety of ways. And people are like, why? Why do we have this? Because you require a lot of stuff from us. And then it's so sloppy. It's just a pile of crap.
Whose life is this making easier? Because I don't think that this is making anyone's life easier.
And the UK lost some voter data recently. That was a bit of an embarrassment. And so, of course, they're going to blame somebody else.
UK blames China for massive breach of voter data. It definitely couldn't be their own fault in the first place for collecting and storing the data.
When the nurses' data gets breached, it'll be China's fault.
I like Cory Doctorow referring to this as the empire of oily rags. It's like all of this is an oily rag. You don't need to hang on to these. You're not going to use it for something useful someday. It's going to catch on fire when you have enough of them.
That should be the empire of cardboard boxes that you keep for no reason.
Well, if that's an oily rag, then this is basically just a 50-gallon drum that's being rolled around in a small room. Now, let's remember last week we learned that Fujitsu has been hacked again, and we don't know the scope of it yet. And let's remember that before that, we learned that Fujitsu was behind the post office scandal.
I was going to say, it's like, now who was responsible for people literally going to prison over theft?
Innocent people. And so now you can read this headline with that in mind.
Fujitsu set to become the preferred bidder in UK digital ID scheme. Listen, if we can't keep track of those poor postal services stamp money, why?
So this is the scheme that means, like we're talking about the states in our country who are blocking things. This would be a way that you could prove your identity online. It will probably be mandatory pretty soon, if not already.
Yeah.
So you'll be giving that data to Fujitsu.
Isn't this just the Snoopers Charter thing in another form? Sure seems like the Snoopers Charter thing in another form. It's like,
I think the alphabet agencies probably would have taken better care of the data. They probably have really good databases, honestly.
yeah, and with Fujitsu in charge, they'll be able to sneak all the spies and randos into the database, at will. It's like, oh, this person has always lived at, whatever address.
And the big tech companies continue to take flack from not just the EU as a whole, but the individual countries.
Amazon fined in Poland for dark pattern design tricks. Basically, when you're on the site and it says, you need to buy this before now, or I don't know if we can ship it to you, and that was just lies.
But also, and this does sound kind of crazy, Amazon, I don't know if they can do this here, maybe we have laws against it, but they claim that when you click the button and you get the email and it's like, oh, we got your order, that's not the final order. The order doesn't finalize till you get the shipment alert. So days later, they could just be like, yeah, we canceled that. And then you have to wait more days to order from somebody else.
There was an
Amazon's getting
exception
so
on your
terrible.
order.
And more bad news for one of the most influential men in tech right now. On one hand, he's got a project that's going really, really well, but then he's got another one that is meeting roadblock after roadblock.
Reuters headline is Portugal orders Sam Altman's Worldcoin to halt data collection. This is the one that was shut down in Spain that's collecting your eyeballs.
Yeah, your retina.
And scans of it. It's like, hey, give us a scan of your retina and we'll give you some of this ephemeral cryptocurrency that may or may not be worth anything.
The kind of the same arguments that Spain had, obviously, privacy stuff, but also an extra complaint here that they were aggressively trying to get underage kids to take part in this.
Ugh. I guess because they're probably the only ones who would agree to that.
I mean,
If you let me scan your retina, you can have a sucker.
what do they
All
give
right.
them? They give them like $20 or $50 or something like that.
That's
That
a
means
lot
a
when
lot
you're a kid.
more to a kid. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I can see that. And over in the Netherlands, they have a terrible court loss for, the copyright people won, basically. And now that's leading to more and more of the slippery slope.
Dutch court orders ISP to block Anna's Archive and LibGen. These are the places where you could download academic papers, which weirdly, we had a ruling here that said by 2025, the academic papers that are made with taxpayer dollars have to be public. So those sites would actually be okay as long as it was just U.S. academic papers.
By that time, they'll all be written by AI. They'll be useless.
That's already happening. Have you noticed your Google search results are written entirely by AI and basically worthless?
Well, not everywhere, because there are some places on the internet where you can still get valid reviews of things, but they're doing everything they can to stop it.
Nigerian woman faces jail time for Facebook review of tomato sauce. In that review, she said, this tomato sauce is pure sugar. They're trying to kill you because it's pure sugar. And that was apparently not okay.
She's been jailed. There was a little more to it. there was, I think, some arguing in the comments, and then she sort of formed a little coalition to go after them for selling the sugar, and that was too much for the government.
I really don't like the high fructose corn syrup tomato sauce.
No one does. No one likes the high fructose corn syrup sodas either. But it's subsidized in the United States. That corn is cheap.
I've heard of putting like a little bit, like a pinch of sugar into tomato sauce to kind of like balance out the acidity. But I can't imagine dumping a bunch in it if you're making it from scratch.
That's like a lot.
But
This is just vitamins.
But when they're making it in the factory, I'm sure, first of all, it makes it more addictive.
Yeah.
And second of all, it makes it cheaper to make.
Yeah, I'm sure they probably add a lot more sugar.
Sugar or corn syrup or whatever they're using, probably cheaper than tomatoes, right? And that's not our only Nigeria story this week. The other one, I feel, might have involved some bribery.
Binance executive detained in Nigeria amid a crypto crackdown has escaped. This is going to be...
Catch Me If You Can.
Yeah, Catch Me If You Can, or some, really amazing movie with some up-and-coming director in a year or two.
He was being moved to a mosque for prayer, and they just lost him. Nobody knows where he is. Crazy how that happens.
And he gave somebody a lot of money in the form of the aforementioned cryptocurrency.
And of course, we've now moved on to pirate TV. That's the big thing now, right? Because everybody loves streaming, so you give them pirate streaming instead of just letting them download the files directly, which is silly. Don't pirate through pirate TV. Pirate the old-fashioned way. And so
we would never condone pirating on this program.
I mean, if you're going to do it. But that is not allowed, and the Brazilian government is really taking action.
The Torrent Freak headline is Operation 404 results in the first prison sentence for pirate IPTV operator in Brazil.
That's quite a punishment.
Yeah. That's what was it, 0.25 Bankman-Fried's?
I think he affected the world much more.
I mean, it was billions of dollars, and it's like on the one hand 25 years, but then on the other hand, like there are white-collar criminals that have stolen like $50,000 and gotten the same or a worse sentence. So
in San Francisco, there's stabbings that have gotten like personal recognizance and then probation.
You're released on probation after a stabbing. That doesn't seem right. It's like, let him out to put the stabber in.
And this is an interesting one because this is the Spider-Man again. Once again, we need the Spider-Man meme.
China's new guidelines block Intel and AMD chips in government computers, according to the Financial Times. So China doesn't trust Intel and AMD's chips in government computers. I did a video a long time ago on the Hygon. That was China's version of AMD's processor. It was AMD's processor with some of the intellectual property changed, including the random number generator, it was fascinating to look at the differences between those chips because it's like, oh, the Chinese NSA has done this to the random numbers and the stuff inside the chip. What do they know about the random numbers? What do they know about the stuff in our CPUs? And so this is not just an economic sanction, but also a security sanction. But also we'll have another story about how China's chips are only like 3 or 4 years behind ours.
And this is just disgusting. And this is the kind of horrors that you would only see in a communist wasteland, never here in the beautiful, free United States. Oh, that's right. New York's been doing this for years.
China steps up checks for people bypassing the Great Firewall of China. It's like basically they want to inspect your mobile phone and be like, hey, do you have the real internet or do you have the weirdo, lockdown restricted internet?
Stop and frisk, but for your phone.
Also, now we're at a really amazing dichotomy when we think about it in these terms. Is like, will China be able to get to the Western level of microprocessor intellectual property faster than we're able to undebacle fab production in Ohio and or Arizona?
Yes, because that takes a really, really long time.
It's not looking good for the home team.
And it's not looking good for the home team because we see what is decried as unacceptable in this situation. But then you're like, wait a minute, aren't they doing this to us? Don't we read story after story where this is happening here just on a corporate level?
Israel quietly rolled out a mass facial recognition program in the Gaza Strip.
So did Lowe's.
If you've gotten your passport renewed lately, have you noticed how they don't want you to wear glasses anymore?
So yeah, this is a lot of this kind of stuff comes from Israel. They have a lot of technology in this kind of thing, and they just couldn't wait to roll it out.
That's so weird. This is the same company that's offering expedited check-in at airlines in America.
Yeah, make no mistake. No matter what Western country you're in, this is a beta test for you. You're going to get this real soon.
I can't wait to submit to the face and retina scan in order to board the commuter train. Yeah, that'll be
Well, you're
great.
getting ready to fly here in a little bit. You're going to have to go through all that.
Yeah.
Did you use the no Boeing filter?
I don't know, actually. That's a good
I
question.
want to look into that. And the war on social media at the state level is not the only one. There's also a war at a more grassroots level.
TikTok and Snapchat respond as Ontario school boards sue social media giants. Basically just saying they're ruining the children. It's like, well, the children could not use those things in the first place. That's an option.
You see here, Doug Ford disagrees with it. That's Doug Ford, brother of crackhead Mayor Rob Ford.
Oh, yeah.
So he's saying that just take the phones away from them, which I kind of agree with, I guess. Do they consider that a bridge too far for the students? Do you think there would be a student revolt?
It's not even the students. A lot of times it's parents. Parents get really freaked out. So like, what if I need to contact them during the day? And it's like, you can't wait.
School's got a phone.
Yeah.
They got a PA system.
Google and Microsoft and Apple could get in front of this immediately by offering just a friendlier UI to the tools that they have for businesses for controlling phones. Like if you want to lock down a kid's phone that they're only allowed to go to the whitelisted websites, that's about 20 minutes of work.
They also, some places do like the sleeve too, where you have to like go put your phone in at the start of class.
The problem with that is the kids are going to be smarter and they're going to work around it, and the parents aren't going to know.
I think that only makes the kids better.
That's true. Yeah,
Yeah.
I would agree with that. I think, it's a great idea to give your children access to things, but only if they do some like really esoteric stuff. Because that's what we kind of did, just by the fact that we had crappy hardware and no one to teach us.
You can have the forbidden knowledge, but it'll require you to
But it'll have a cost.
read a book.
My parents didn't do this on purpose, but this is a great parenting strategy. They restricted my media consumption in terms of like violence and sex on television, but I was allowed to read whatever book I wanted. And it made me a voracious reader, which has been a huge life skill. And this is an interesting one because what do you think the Venn diagram looks like of average TikTok user versus average old cable television user?
There might be more overlap than you think, because my mom watches TikTok.
But
Not super frequently, but she does have.
But we're hemorrhaging
TikTok.
subscribers like crazy. TikTok makes $2.1 million TV ad to buy as Senate reviews a bill that could ban the app.
To be fair, I bet most of the people who are going to vote based on this are old people who are they're watching the grandkids on TikTok. And they're like, well, I got to see the grand. It's the only way they communicate with me. So that's interesting. And it's been a while since we've seen the social media companies horribly invading our privacy. They've been laying low for a while. AI is getting all the headlines, but don't let that stop Facebook.
Project Ghostbusters. Facebook accused of using your phone to wiretap Snapchat.
So this was it Venuvo? What was the name of their VPN? Anyway, they had that horrible VPN that was supposed to protect you from spying, and when it in fact was spying on you, and it was doing this. It was spying inside your other apps so they could get more of an idea of what you were using in terms of apps.
Yeah, there was some emails from Mark Zuckerberg in this one that were, hey, I know this is encrypted, but you guys need to figure out a way to do this. And it was like, oh, we'll just use the Android debug log. And it's like,
And once again, that was in 2019, right?
Yeah.
How many times did he be in front of the Senate with him reading his emails at that point? When is he going to learn?
It's like, this is a technical problem. No,
He-
it's like,
The only lesson he learns is that he's basically untouchable.
That's
like
true.
he pays a fine and then
Yeah.
it goes away.
That's a good point. And Instagram is, I guess, trying to avoid the whole election year miasma that everybody is feeling. Maybe it's a good thing.
users are shocked, I tell you, to find Instagram is limiting political content by default. It's like, you can turn that off, but there's an option for that. There's an option where you can just turn off the horrors of reality.
Yeah, I kind of I'm like, I get I'm supposed to be informed, but how much are you being informed by shit you're seeing on Instagram?
Well, these days, a lot of people, it's like 100%. And if you hate the idea of AI watching everything and there being security cameras everywhere that are ultimately going to be tied into the AI, and one day it's all going to be one big Skynet, Here's another horrible addition to those cameras.
Meta is adding AI to its Ray-Ban smart glasses next month. They saw the Rabbit AI pen and said, oh, we can one-up that with an app running on your phone and glasses that are always on.
I can't remember if it was this or the AI pen that they took to the zoo. Do you remember which one it was?
AI pen.
Oh, okay.
I think it was the AI pen.
One of them was bad at rare animals.
I did laugh that it said it could identify animals. And I was like, well, is it like a preschooler? Like, I don't.
No, but when I think it was the AI pen, they went to the zoo.
Yeah.
And it was like, I have no idea what this is. And Reddit, they had the IPO. I didn't check the price today. I meant to. But they did quite well in the beginning. But now you've got shareholders, you got Wall Street, you got activist investors, you've got all these people writing articles online, and they're going to demand that you become more in line with what they want for line to go up.
Reddit may need to ramp up spending on content moderation, say analysts.
It's the beginning of the end. Need a new Reddit.
It'll be AI moderation, and it will be draconian, and everything good about Reddit, which how much was there left, will be stripped away.
It'll be Discord servers, and I really hate that because it's like, ugh.
And if you're one of those people who was hoping that, like you're an anti-Trumper and you were hoping that big fine would shut him down, well, boy, is this a bad week for you, because this is much more than the shot in the arm that he needed.
Trump's Truth Social is going public, ... Although I'm pretty sure that the stock will tank if he sells his shares. So
Well, he's not allowed to sell his shares for 6 months because it's like the SEC rules, right? So if it can hold up for 6 months at the levels that they expect it to be at when it IPOs, he will make $3 billion.
He's going to be like, hey, in this civil case, will you take some Trump Social Truth credits?
He might be able to borrow the money.
I mean,
With that as collateral.
isn't that his whole MO? That's what he's accused of for his whole MO is just borrowing money against other money.
Well, he's definitely not liquid, right? Because he could come up with 500 or 400 million or whatever.
Oh, today might be the last day for the 100. They got it down to 100 and some million. I have to check that.
I thought it was Monday.
Oh, yeah, Monday.
And Twitch, that's such a cat and mouse game on Twitch. They adjust the terms of service a little bit, and these gals slide right through the loopholes every time. It's just incredible.
Twitch bans turning anatomy features into green screens.
What kills me about this screenshot is like they're still out. It's really more of her chest.
Well, no, so they admit that this screenshot doesn't describe.
Yeah.
But she's just calling attention
Right.
to the girls down here. The theme that you're thinking, like what they're actually complaining about, is here. Where
I've seen that clip.
she's playing some Fortnite, but you're watching it on her butt. Who wants to see that?
It's creative.
I mean, she's a beautiful girl. I get that. I guess it's something. If you spend your whole day just looking at girls' butts, it's something fresh, right?
I guess.
The only thing I know about this is I saw a tweet. I think it's from Amaranth, and she was like, "Okay, I'm done. This is ridiculous." And it's just like, well, if she says it's ridiculous, okay.
Was that your stomach?
That was my stomach.
Wow.
I haven't eaten much today. I had some muffins earlier.
And our final two stories have to do with Lord Musk, and it's probably not good news for him, and he has definitely lost a couple of things this week.
The CNN Business headline is Judge's Stern Rebuke of Elon Musk's X Gives Researchers Fresh Hope. So this was a research company that published a thing that said that they thought that X was allowing hate speech, right?
Yeah.
When you say think tank, it was the Center for Digital Hate or something like that. And I don't know exactly what they are, but I think they're very similar to Media Matters, and I know what Media Matters is. And I'm with Musk on this one.
But it is still kind of crappy to just be like,
It is crappy,
Yeah.
and make no mistake, I'm not pro-Musk. And I'll go against him every time on this one because this was the height of hypocrisy.
Elon Musk fought government surveillance while profiting off of government surveillance, according to The Intercept.
So he was fighting about the whole warrant canary thing. He didn't want to have to give up information to the government without letting the user know. We covered that story for a while. There was big headlines, and you're like, well, that's admirable, right? But you know how we always talk about these days, instead of getting a warrant for the information, they just buy it from somebody. Well, guess who was selling?
Elon Musk.
Did you already read that?
I
We
did.
did
I'm
read
sorry.
the headline. We can read it a second time.
So yeah, turns out Twitter has been selling your data to the government while complaining that it didn't want to give your data to the government with a warrant.
We don't want to give it away for free.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll sell it to you.
Before and after the acquisition. That's the important part. It's so weird.
Up until last year, I think, right?
Yeah.
They had proven that they renewed whatever agreement it was last year. You think he'll stop?
No. He needs that money. He'll starve without that money. He
His
can't do
10
that.
million kids will starve without the money.
Can't expect that of him.
All right, well,
We'll see you in the next one.
It's the first episode of quarter 2.
I'm wearing a celebratory shirt that I got at the thrift
It's
store.
high fashion.
Quarter 2 is just, let's not think about that.
You look like a dental hygienist.
I was so excited by the print. I didn't even look at the size. This is a large. It's way too big for
you're
me.
swimming in it.
Yeah. All right. Bye.